Isla had called the legal aid hotline 3 times already. Each time they'd told her the wait list was 8 weeks. She didn't have 8 weeks. She had 48 hours. She didn't want to bother the solicitor from the clinic, the one who'd handed her a card 6 months ago and said, "If it's urgent." But tonight wasn't about pride. It was about a baby sleeping in 2 jumpers because the heating had been cut off, and an eviction notice that used words like immediate possession and county court enforcement. She pulled up the contact. Legal aid Martin. Her fingers were stiff from the cold. She typed, "Martin, I'm sorry to bother you this late. They're evicting us Wednesday morning. I have the notice here, but I don't understand if it's legal. I have no money for a barrister. If you can just tell me if I have any grounds to challenge this, I'll find a way to pay you back. Please." Her thumb hovered over the screen. She hit send. She didn't double-check the number. She didn't even read the name at the top. She just set the phone face down on the kitchen table, pulled Leo tighter against her chest, and stared at the blue glow of the eviction letter in the dark. 12 minutes later, her phone buzzed. "I think you have the wrong number, but send me a photo of the notice." Isla blinked, sat up, grabbed the phone and stared in horror. Alistair Sterling, CEO, Sterling International. 1 wrong digit. She'd just begged a billionaire for help. Her stomach dropped. She typed, "I'm so sorry. Please ignore that. Wrong number." She locked the screen, tossed the phone onto the sofa, pulled the blanket tighter around her son. Another mistake. Another dead end. Another night she'd have to explain to Leo someday when he asked why they had to leave. Then the phone buzzed again. "I said send me the notice. You have 48 hours. I have 12 lawyers on retainer. Stop apologizing and start photographing." Isla's hands began to shake. Not from the cold this time. Isla didn't sleep. She sat on the sofa with her phone in her lap, and the eviction notice still glowing on the table. At 6:47 a.m., her phone rang. An unknown London number. She answered without thinking. "Miss Thorne." A woman's voice. Crisp. Professional. "Too awake for this hour. My name is Claudia Reeves. I'm a solicitor with Harcourt and Green. Mr. Sterling has instructed us to review your eviction notice and file an emergency injunction with the county court this morning." Isla's throat went dry. "I what?" "We'll need the original notice, your tenancy agreement, and any correspondence with the landlord or developer. Can you scan and email those within the hour?" "I don't understand. I can't afford." "There's no fee, Miss Thorne. Mr. Sterling has retained us on your behalf." The call ended. Isla sat there, staring at the phone like it had just spoken in another language. Billionaires didn't do this. Strangers didn't do this. People didn't just fix your life because you sent a desperate text at midnight. Her phone buzzed again. A bank notification. £5,000 deposited into your account. Reference, emergency expenses, A. Sterling. She stopped breathing. £5,000. She checked again. It was real. Another text came through. "The lawyers will handle the eviction. The money is for heating, food, and whatever else you've been going without. It's not a loan. Don't argue." Her hands started shaking. Not from cold this time. From something she didn't have a name for. She wanted to text back. To say thank you. To ask why. To ask what he wanted in return, because nobody gave without wanting something back. But before she could type anything, another message arrived. "And Miss Thorne, next time you need help, send it to the right number. Or don't. This one seems to be working fine." Isla pressed her palm to her mouth. Leo stirred in his cot. The radiator clinked. For the first time in 2 years, she had enough money to turn the heating on. She didn't know whether to cry or run. She did both. By Wednesday morning, the bailiffs didn't come. Claudia Reeves called to say the injunction had been granted. The eviction was suspended pending a full hearing. Isla had 3 months. Maybe more. But that same afternoon, another message came through. "I'd like to meet you. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. The Shard, 68th floor. Bring Leo if you need to. We should talk." Isla stared at the screen. She'd been waiting for this. The bill. The trap. The reason. She texted back. "I'll be there. Because when a man pulls you out of the fire, you don't say no when he asks you to walk into his." The Shard didn't look real. It looked like something from a film about people who didn't ride the bus or check price tags. Isla stood outside the entrance with Leo strapped to her chest, staring up at the glass tower that seemed to puncture the sky. She almost turned around. But then she thought about the radiator, the food in the fridge, the lawyer who'd called her Miss Thorne like she mattered. She went inside. The lift didn't even feel like it was moving. Just a smooth, silent rise that made her stomach drop. When the doors opened on the 68th floor, she stepped into a reception area that smelled like leather and something expensive she couldn't name. A woman in a black suit smiled at her. "Miss Thorne." Isla nodded. "Mr. Sterling is expecting you." She was led down a corridor with floor-to-ceiling windows. London spread out below like a map. She could see her entire life from up here. Hackney, the estate, the corner shop where she bought formula on credit. And then she saw him. Alistair Sterling stood near the window, hands in his pockets, staring out at the city like he owned it. He probably did. He was tall, sharp-featured, dark hair going silver at the temples. He looked like someone who'd never missed a meal or a meeting. He turned when she entered. "Miss Thorne." His voice was low, controlled. "Thank you for coming." She shifted Leo on her chest. "You didn't really give me a choice." His mouth almost smiled. "Almost. You could have said no." "Could I?" He gestured to a chair. She didn't sit. "Why did you help me?" she asked. He studied her for a moment. "Because your message wasn't a pitch. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't someone trying to get something from me." He paused. "It was just honest. And that's rare for you?" "Vanishingly." Isla swallowed. "What do you want?" "I want to offer you a job." She blinked. "A job? You were a law student. Top of your class at Queen Mary before you withdrew. You understand contracts, land law, tenancy disputes." He stepped closer. "I need someone I can trust to audit some of our property acquisitions. Someone who'll tell me the truth. You have lawyers for that." "I have lawyers who tell me what I want to hear." Isla's pulse kicked up. "And what makes you think I'm any different?" "Because you didn't ask me for anything," he said quietly. "You asked for help. There's a difference." She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. But then her eyes caught something on the wall. A framed map. Development zones across East London. Her estate was circled in red. Her blood went cold. "That's my building," she said, pointing. "That's where I live." Alistair followed her gaze. His jaw tightened. "I know. You're developing it." "No," he said. "Someone is. Using my company's name." Isla took a step back. "I don't understand." "Neither do I," he said. "That's why I need you." The creche was on the 65th floor. It had soft mats, warm lights, toys that didn't come from charity shops, and a woman named Amara who smiled at Leo like he was made of something precious. Isla stood in the doorway, frozen. "He'll be safe here," Alistair said behind her. "Amara's worked with us for 6 years. Full DBS check. Pediatric first aid certified." Isla's throat tightened. She'd never left Leo with anyone. Not once. "You don't have to," Alistair added. "You can keep him with you." But Leo was already reaching for one of the toys. And Amara was already kneeling down, speaking to him in that gentle sing-song voice people used with babies. Isla kissed Leo's head, handed him over, walked out before she could change her mind. Her desk was in a quiet office 3 floors down. It had a window, a computer, a stack of files labeled orphan land titles. Audit required. Alistair set a folder in front of her. "These are properties we've acquired over the past 18 months. Mostly East London. Some of the paperwork feels off. I want you to go through it. Look for inconsistencies. Signatures that don't match. Dates that don't line up. And if I find something, you tell me." He turned to leave. "Mr. Sterling." He paused. "Why are you really doing this?" she asked. "The lawyers. The money. The job. You don't know me." He looked at her for a long moment. "Maybe that's exactly why." The door closed. Isla sat down, opened the first file, and for the first time in 2 years, she felt like someone who had a purpose beyond just surviving. But 3 hours later, that feeling turned into something else. She found her own address. Council Estate, Hackney. Notice of possession filed, October 12th. The signature at the bottom read, Alistair Sterling, CEO. But the date was wrong. The solicitor's name was one she'd never seen on any other Sterling document. And the stamp, the company seal, was slightly smudged. Like someone had copied it. Isla's hands went cold. Someone had forged this. And either Alistair didn't know, or he was lying to her face. Isla worked through lunch, then through the afternoon. By the time Amara brought Leo up at 5, Isla had gone through 43 files and found the same ghost solicitor on 11 of them. Marcus Halloway, senior counsel. She searched the Sterling International Directory. No Marcus Halloway. She searched the Law Society registry. No Marcus Halloway admitted in the past 20 years. He didn't exist. But his signature was on every eviction notice for her estate, and on dozens of others across Hackney, Tower Hamlets, Newham. All of them low income. All of them cleared fast. And all of them stamped with Alistair Sterling's digital signature. Her stomach turned. She opened the metadata on one of the scanned documents. The signature had been copied, pasted, duplicated across multiple files from a single source image dated 14 months ago. Someone inside this company was using Alistair's name to push people out of their homes. She sat back, stared at the screen. If she told him, and he already knew she was done, he'd bury her. She had no proof he wasn't involved. But if she didn't tell him, and he was innocent, people were going to lose everything, including her. Her phone buzzed. "How's the audit going?" Alistair Sterling. Her fingers hovered over the keys. She typed, "I need to talk to you. Privately." The reply was instant. "My office. Now." She stood in front of his desk with the printed files in her hand and her heart in her throat. "I found something," she said. He looked up. "Go on." "The eviction notices for my estate, and at least 10 others. They're all signed by the same solicitor. Marcus Halloway. I don't know that name." "That's because he doesn't exist," Isla said. "He's not in your directory. Not with the Law Society. But his name is on legal documents filed under your signature." Alistair's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. "Show me." She laid the papers on his desk. He scanned them in silence. His jaw tightened. "This isn't my signature," he said quietly. "I know. It's copied. Someone's using your credentials to authorize evictions you never approved. Who has access to my digital signatures? Your legal team. Your managing partner. Maybe others." His gaze snapped to hers. Julian Vane. Isla's pulse spiked. "Your managing partner?" Alistair stood, walked to the window. His hands curled into fists. "If Julian's involved, this isn't just fraud. It's systematic. Organized." "Then we go to the police," Isla said. "Not yet." He turned. "If we move too fast, he'll destroy the evidence. I need you to keep digging. Quietly. And if he finds out, he won't." But even as he said it, Isla saw something in his face she hadn't seen before. Doubt. Julian Vane found her 2 days later. She was alone in the office, Leo asleep in the carrier on her chest. It was past 7. Most of the floor had emptied. The door opened without a knock. He was tall, polished, silver hair, expensive suit, smile like a blade. "Miss Thorne," he said. "Working late." She closed the file on her screen. "Just finishing up." He stepped inside, closed the door behind him. Her stomach dropped. "I hear Alistair's taken quite an interest in you," he said, moving closer. "Unusual. He's not normally the charitable type. I'm just doing a job. Auditing land titles." He smiled. "Funny. I don't remember approving that position." She didn't answer. He leaned against the desk. "Too close. You should be careful, Miss Thorne. Alistair Sterling is a complicated man. Brilliant, yes, but ruthless. Do you know how he built this company? I'm not interested in gossip." "It's not gossip." His voice dropped. "He identifies communities on the edge, places no one's watching. Then he pushes. Quietly. Legally most of the time. And when the land's empty, he builds." Isla's blood went cold. "That's not true. Isn't it?" Julian tilted his head. "Why do you think he hired you? A former law student from the very estate he's clearing." He smiled. "It's optics, darling. If you're on his payroll, you can't exactly testify against him, can you?" Her breath caught. "You're lying." "Am I?" He straightened. adjusted his cufflinks. Ask yourself, Miss Thorne. Why did he really answer that text? Why did he help you? He walked to the door. Paused. Men like Alistair Sterling don't do anything unless it serves them. The door closed. Isla stood there, shaking. Leo stirred against her chest. She wanted to believe Julian was lying. But part of her, the part that had learned not to trust anyone, whispered that maybe he wasn't. And maybe she'd just walked into the prettiest trap she'd ever seen. Isla didn't go home that night. Alistair insisted. She didn't have the energy to fight him. The car was black and silent, and smelled like leather she'd never be able to afford. Leo slept the whole drive. She watched London blur past the window, and tried not to think about Julian's words looping in her head. The house in Richmond wasn't a house. It was something from a magazine. Tall windows. Ivy on the walls. A gate that required a code. You'll be safe here, Alistair said as they pulled up. Safe from what? She asked. Your own managing partner? He didn't answer. Inside, the place was warm. Too warm. She wasn't used to it. There was a cot already set up in the bedroom. Bottles in the kitchen. Formula. Nappies. How did you? I made a call, he said. She wanted to scream at him. For being too prepared. For making her feel like a project. But Leo was stirring, and she was so tired. And the bed in the next room looked softer than anything she'd touched in years. There's someone I want you to meet, Alistair said. Tomorrow. A private investigator. She's worked with me before. Discreet. Thorough. You think Julian's going to come after me. I think Julian's already coming after you. Isla sat down on the sofa. Put her face in her hands. Why didn't you just leave me alone? She whispered. I was nobody. I wasn't your problem. Alistair crouched in front of her. She hadn't heard him move. You were never nobody, he said quietly. She looked up. His eyes were darker up close. Serious. Julian's assistant is a woman named Petra Mills, he continued. She's been with him for 9 years. She processes every document that leaves his office. If anyone knows what he's doing, it's her. And you think she'll talk? I think she's tired, Alistair said. People who work for men like Julian always are. The investigator's name was Sienna Cartwright. She arrived the next morning with a leather bag and the kind of calm that only came from seeing terrible things and surviving them. She sat across from Isla at the kitchen table. Petra Mills, Sienna said, sliding a photo across. A woman in her 50s. Neat hair. Tired eyes. She's been signing off on Vane's documents for years. But 6 months ago, her daughter got sick. Leukemia. Treatment's expensive. Even with the NHS. Isla's throat tightened. He's paying for it. Privately. Through a shell account. So she's trapped. She's loyal, Sienna corrected. But loyalty has limits. Especially when you realize the man you're protecting is hurting people like you. You think she'll flip? Sienna leaned back. I think if someone shows her a way out, she'll take it. Alistair stepped into the room. Then let's give her one. It took 3 days. Sienna made contact. Quiet. Careful. A coffee shop in Canary Wharf. No phones. No records. Petra cried. She brought copies. Emails. Signatures. A spreadsheet with every property Julian had targeted. Every family displaced. Every document forged. I didn't know at first, Petra said, hands shaking around her cup. I thought it was legal. But then I saw the names. The addresses. These weren't investments. They were people. Isla reached across the table. Took her hand. You're doing the right thing now, she said. Petra nodded. He can't know. If he finds out. He won't, Sienna said. But the next morning, Isla woke to 6 missed calls from Claudia Reeves. She answered. Isla, don't say anything. Don't go anywhere. Julian Vane has filed a report with the Solicitors Regulation Authority. He's claiming you accessed confidential client files without authorization and stole proprietary data. Isla's heart stopped. That's not. I know. But he has evidence. Timestamps. Logs. He's saying you were planted by a competitor to sabotage Sterling International. That's insane. It doesn't matter. If this goes through, you'll be unemployable. Possibly criminal charges. Isla looked at Alistair, who was already on his phone pacing. She realized it then. Julian wasn't just protecting himself. He was erasing her. Alistair slammed his phone down on the table. He's locked me out. What? The board. Julian called an emergency meeting. He's moving to suspend me pending an internal investigation into my association with a corporate spy. His jaw tightened. He's using you to gut me. Isla stood. Then we go to the board. We show them what Petra gave us. They won't see us. Julian controls the narrative right now. Then we don't go to the board. Her voice was steady. Cold. We go public. Alistair turned. If you do that, you'll burn every bridge you have. The legal world is small. No firm will touch you. They already won't, Isla said. Julian made sure of that. Sienna stepped forward. She's right. The only way out is through. We leak the documents. We name names. We let the press do what the board won't. Alistair stared at Isla. You understand what this means? I understand that if I stay quiet, I lose, Isla said. And so do all the people Julian's already destroyed. He nodded slowly. Then we do it together. Sienna had a contact at The Guardian. Investigative journalist. History of taking down property corruption. They sent everything. The forged signatures. The shell companies. The spreadsheet with hundreds of families. Petra's testimony. Documented proof that Julian Vane had been using Alistair Sterling's name to illegally displace low-income tenants for over 2 years. The article went live at 6 a.m. Sterling International managing partner accused of systematic fraud in East London housing scandal. By 9 a.m., it was everywhere. Isla's phone exploded. Texts, calls, reporters, lawyers, people from her estate saying they'd seen her name, saying thank you, saying finally. But Julian moved faster. By noon, his lawyer released a statement. Miss Thorne is a disgruntled former tenant with a personal vendetta. These allegations are fabricated and defamatory. We will pursue all legal remedies. And then the worst part. Mr. Sterling's involvement in Miss Thorne's employment raises serious questions about his judgment and complicity. The board has requested his immediate resignation. Isla read it twice. They were going to destroy him. Because of her. I'm sorry, she whispered. Alistair was standing by the window. He didn't turn. Don't be. You're losing your company. I'm losing a board seat, he corrected. But I'm not losing the truth. He finally looked at her. And I'm not losing you. Her breath caught. Before she could respond, Sienna walked in. The SRA just announced an emergency tribunal. They're fast-tracking the investigation into both of you. She paused. But here's the thing. Petra's agreed to testify. On record. In front of the board and the regulators. Isla's heart kicked. When? Tomorrow. High Court Annex. Open hearing. Alistair's eyes locked on Isla's. Then we end this tomorrow. The hearing room was smaller than Isla expected. Wood-paneled. Cold. Rows of seats filled with board members, regulators, lawyers, and journalists who'd smelled blood. Julian sat at the front table. Immaculate suit. Calm smile. Like he'd already won. Isla sat across from him with Alistair on one side and Claudia Reeves on the other. Her hands were shaking. She pressed them flat on the table. The arbiter entered. A woman in her 60s. Sharp eyes. No patience for theatrics. This tribunal will determine whether Miss Isla Thorne and Mr. Alistair Sterling unlawfully accessed and distributed confidential client information, and whether Mr. Julian Vane engaged in fraudulent property acquisition practices using forged documentation. Julian's lawyer stood. Smooth. Expensive. Your Honor, this is a clear case of corporate espionage orchestrated by a disgruntled tenant and enabled by a CEO with compromised judgment. Miss Thorne was hired specifically to audit land acquisitions, Claudia countered. She was doing her job. She was hired without board approval, Julian's lawyer shot back. By a man personally involved with her. The room shifted. Whispers. Alistair didn't flinch. The arbiter raised a hand. Let's see the evidence. Claudia stood. Pulled up the first document on the screen. This is an eviction notice filed for the Hackney estate where Miss Thorne resided. Signed by Marcus Halloway, senior counsel. She pulled up another. This is the Law Society registry. No Marcus Halloway exists. Another document. This is the metadata from the signature file. It was copied from a template and duplicated across 47 separate eviction filings, all authorized under Mr. Sterling's digital credentials. The room went quiet. Julian's lawyer cleared his throat. This proves nothing. Digital signatures can be compromised by anyone with access. Correct, Claudia said. Which is why we have this. Sienna opened the door. Petra Mills stepped inside. Julian's face went white. Petra walked to the stand. Her voice was quiet but steady. I processed every one of those documents, she said. Mr. Vane gave me the files. Told me they were pre-approved. I signed off because I trusted him. And when did you realize they weren't legitimate? The arbiter asked. When I saw the addresses, Petra said. My daughter's friend lived in one of those buildings. She was evicted in 3 days. No hearing. No appeal. Her voice cracked. I asked Mr. Vane about it. He told me to stay in my lane. Julian leaned forward. Your Honor, Miss Mills is under duress. Her daughter's medical expenses were paid by you, Petra interrupted, through an offshore account, to keep me quiet. She handed a folder to the arbiter. These are the wire transfers, the emails, the instructions Mr. Vane sent me to backdate documents and forge Mr. Sterling's approval. The arbiter read in silence. Julian's lawyer started to speak. Sit down, the arbiter said. She looked at Julian. Mr. Vane, you have the right to remain silent, but I'm obligated to inform you that this tribunal's findings will be referred to the Crown Prosecution Service. Julian didn't move, didn't speak. He just stared at Isla, and for the first time she stared back. You were right about one thing, Isla said quietly. Men like Alistair Sterling don't do anything unless it serves them. She stood. But sometimes what serves them is just doing the right thing. The arbiter's gavel came down. This tribunal finds no evidence of wrongdoing by Miss Thorne or Mr. Sterling. Mr. Vane, you are hereby suspended pending criminal investigation. Security moved in. Julian was escorted out. And Isla finally breathed. 3 months later, the Hackney estate was still standing. The eviction orders had been voided. Families moved back in. The developer pulled out. And Sterling International announced a new initiative, a pro bono legal division dedicated to tenant rights and housing justice. Isla was named head of social responsibility. She stood in her new office on the 66th floor, looking out at the city that had almost swallowed her whole. There was a knock. Alistair stepped inside. He didn't say anything, just crossed the room and stood beside her. You did it, he said. We did it, she corrected. He smiled. Not the polite corporate smile. The real one. I need to tell you something, he said. She turned. That text you sent. The one that started all of this. He paused. It wasn't a mistake. Her heart skipped. What do you mean? I mean, I've spent the last 10 years building something that didn't mean anything. And then you appeared. By accident. And suddenly everything meant something. She couldn't breathe. I don't know what happens next, he said quietly. But I know I don't want to do it without you. Isla looked at him. This man who'd answered a message he didn't have to. Who'd fought beside her when he could have walked away. You're sure? She whispered. Because I come with a toddler and a lot of trust issues. I've met Leo, Alistair said. He's better company than most of my board. She laughed. And then she kissed him. Outside the window, London kept moving. The Shard glittered. The Thames flowed. And for the first time in her life, Isla Thorne wasn't just surviving. She was living. If this story meant something to you, if you've ever felt invisible, desperate, or like one wrong move would end you, then you're part of this community. We're building something here. Stories that don't just entertain, but remind you that you're not alone, that your fight matters. Subscribe, because the next person who needs to hear that might be sitting right next to you, and they're waiting for you to share this.